Sheree Meredith from Hamilton Community Foundation. Welcome to Hamilton's Vital Signs. This is the show where we talk about the many aspects of community life that make Hamilton a vibrant city. November is Philanthropy Month across North America. And so this is a really special time for Hamilton Community Foundation because we were started in 1954 by generous citizens who wanted to make a difference and create a vehicle for others to continue to shape the future of our community to be prosperous for everyone. Philanthropy is a lot more than just giving money, though. We often talk about giving time, talent, and treasure. And today we are joined by two wonderful guests who have done that for a lifetime. Sandra Stephenson and Hugh Clarke. Welcome.
Thank you.
Both of these people are deeply involved in our community and have been involved with many organizations, including serving on the board of Hamilton Community Foundation, something which you both have in common. So I'm going to start by asking, maybe we'll start with you, Sandra. I'd like to pose the first question to both of you. And ask you about how your philanthropy reflects who you are and what you care about in life.
Well, I guess for me, as I reflect on what I've done throughout my philanthropy career, I would have to say my focus has really been Hamilton. And I think that stems from my feeling that Hamilton gave me a lot, so I feel I need to give back to Hamilton. And so when I look at all the various boards I've been on, all the activities in which I've been engaged in this community, it has had more of a local connection for me. Hamilton was very good to my family, and I feel duty bound to contribute my time and whatever resources I have.
That sense of home.
Yeah.
Is that so for you, Hugh, or
well,
what would you say?
Unlike, very much like Sandra, my involvement in volunteer activities and in philanthropy generally has been, Hamilton-based, and started, very early in my life.
Tell me more about that, because people say they're often influenced by their parents, and before they even know that they're doing it, they've done it for a few years.
Well, with me, it's almost as if I've been, programmed to do philanthropy. And, I go back, I was born in the early 1930s, the dirty 1930s.
So the Depression era.
And I grew up on York Street, and just below us were the CNR tracks, and there were, again, back in those years, there were, we called them tramps, which doesn't sound like very good terminology, but they were called tramps.
That was the term of the time.
And they used to call it our place, and my mother would feed them, and I was just a little guy, so she would give them some food, some soup and a sandwich. She fed them well, as a matter of fact, and then sent them out to the back, and I used to keep them company, and sitting on the back steps, because I noticed my mother didn't invite them in, to eat at the dining room table, and they were. I was just a little guy, and I can't get over how well I remember that, doing this, because these guys are really nice guys, and they were nice to me, and
why do you think it sticks in your memory so much?
Well, it's a good question. It's a good question, and even with my dad also involved in a lot of organizations. And I clearly remember him. He had a what do they call the organization where they having a senior moment here.
But
I remember him
like Rotary or something.
Well, he was in Rotary, but the organization where men have look after little kids.
Shriners?
No, not Shriners.
Well, let's not worry about the name of it.
But anyway, when he visited his kid,
Big Brothers.
he always took us along with him. And I clearly remember that. And also something else I remember. This is in the early 40s during World War II, and at that time we just had one truck, and I can remember Dad picking up scrap metal for the Children's Aid Society, and he was a director of the Children's Aid Society, as was I, as a matter of fact, just a few years ago. So
it's part of your value system. Is that similar for you, Sandra? Part of your values?
I do recollect my my grandparents were during the war. Would bring. They were of Welsh ancestry, so they don't have all these Welsh service people who were training in Mount Hope, I believe, and they would have them for dinner and do volunteer things like that. So it's for me it was more around. We had been helped so much in my family. My dad had a stroke when we were pretty young, and so my sisters and I were, faced with the prospect of not being able to go to university. And one of our high school teachers told us about the Cheney Ensign bursary at Hamilton Community Foundation. And so the four of us, all during our education, received those bursaries. And but for those bursaries and other help from people who cared about us, query whether we would have ever gone to university. And two of us are lawyers and two of us were educators, so you would have had very frustrated women, very frustrated women if we couldn't pursue our career. So for me so
you've benefited directly from philanthropy.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of research that suggests that being philanthropic, contributing to your community, has lots of personal benefits, and I don't mean the charitable receipt and the income tax benefit. In fact, Canadians get kind of riled up and say we don't do it for that, we do it for other reasons. But have you seen some of the benefits? Better health, feeling satisfied, feeling connected. Have you felt that yourselves?
No question about it. Well, for one thing, it leads to a more balanced life.
Yes.
Getting involved with volunteer activities opens up a whole new world, and you find yourself developing friendships and associations, and it just plain feels good. It just being a part of an organization, and it's to me, very important part of my life.
You and I would echo that. I think for me, it's the richness and the diversity of my community that I get to learn about by being out there and volunteering on various boards. And I was involved in Rotary for many years, and you really get to know your community when you're engaged in something like that. And for me as a lawyer, I could be just sitting in my office day in and day out and day in and day out. And so being involved in the community in various ways really allows me that opportunity to get out and know my community, and also work in a group dynamic, which I've reflected upon more recently, now that I'm not doing so much board work, that I really miss that collaborative decision making that happens around a table. And so that's really been enriching for me in my career. So
it's almost time for break, but I want to ask you both quickly, has there been a moment, a time when a grant went out or an involvement you had, where it was that magical moment where you knew that you really did something worthwhile and it felt really, really right?
Well, for me, it was volunteering at a reading program through our Rotary Club, and watching the little ones actually learn how to read right before me as I'm going in and reading once a week. The other thing I reflect on, I think it's going to happen, maybe 20 years from now, we'll be looking back on it and with a lot of pride, and that wow moment for me was when we started the Women for Change.
Yeah.
And just celebrating that for women, we are pretty much the first generation where we have had our own money in a large demographic of us who have acquired our own resources, and we're now able to step forward, and that's going to be, I think, quite something when we look back on it and think, wow, that we really started something with the Women for Change. And
I don't know that I can say that that there's a moment in my life, except that, and I'm giving a plug here to the Hamilton Community Foundation.
We'll take it.
But my brother and I developed a foundation, and again, the reason being that we felt, at the very least, we should be contributing, back to the community, and it really wasn't going, very well. And my brother, who's a chartered accountant, was, bearing the brunt of running our foundation and, of course, doing all the bookkeeping and so on. And he suggested to me, he said, what about joining the Hamilton Community Foundation? Well, I didn't know. As a matter of fact, I wasn't all that enthusiastic.
Well, I think that's a good time for us to take a break here. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with our guests today, Sandra Stephenson and Hugh Clarke. And we're talking about philanthropy.
I'm not special. Cancer happens to people all the time. I take 1 mile at a time, 26 miles a day. I want to set an example that'll never be forgotten. Sometimes it feels endless. But the pain I feel is nothing. I've seen little kids in so much pain. Somewhere, the hurting must stop.
Terry Fox ran more than halfway across Canada to raise money for cancer research. Every year, millions of people around the world continue the marathon of hope in his name.
Welcome back. I'm Sheree Meredith from Hamilton Community Foundation, and you're watching Hamilton's Vital Signs. So today we're talking about philanthropy with Sandra Stephenson and Hugh Clarke. We talked before the break a little bit about what shaped your involvement, your values, and what you've really garnered and learned and appreciated about philanthropy. Now I'd like to shift and look forward, if we could, and think about Hamilton as it's evolving and the exciting place that it's becoming, and ask you your thoughts on where you see philanthropy playing a role in that, both time and financial, I think. But where do you see the opportunities, I guess, for people and philanthropists to get involved?
Well, we were talking about it before we went on air about how Hamilton is changing so rapidly. You just look at James Street and you see the changes that are taking place, and it's so exciting for us to see that new life and new energy in the city. And as I reflect, I think from a philanthropic perspective, I'd like to see more of the private public partnerships that allow for, you know, social enterprise is an up and coming and thing, if you will, or the initiatives around giving people opportunity.
Yeah.
With, you know, even if it's something like, I know the Community Foundation and others will give mortgages in, you know, in certain,
Some of the loans and
Yeah.
some of the financial support.
yeah, where other lenders won't give, they'll give the leg up by giving the private mortgage for appropriate housing for people. I think you'll see a lot more. Well, I know there are a lot more efforts around education and giving people an opportunity to get a university education or a college education. And to me, education has always been the great equalizer, and I see huge opportunities in this community for that capacity building. That so I'm very excited about living
new
in
models,
Hamilton.
different kinds of partnerships.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Hugh?
Well, I
where do
agree
you
with
see it?
Sandra, you know, with her comments. I mean, we live in a great city. You know, a lot is happening in Hamilton now. You know, of course, the city, you know, has changed. We have so much to be proud of. I understand that Hamilton, on a per capita basis, leads the whole country in, or is certainly up there in per capita, per capita, you know, givings. And in this day and age that we live in, there's, you know, so much opportunity.
Yeah.
And you know, we already have the resources to develop and do great things. And I think that you know, the future. You know, we live in such a different world now. So it's offers us challenges, but also opportunities. You know,
And
to
for really
do something.
engaging people,
Yeah.
and engaging new Canadians, young people.
Yeah. Well, it's
engaging
funny
them.
you mentioned young people, and I just am so encouraged by the next generation, because, and I remember when my children were in school, they started something called you had to do mandatory volunteer hours, and
Yes.
I remember thinking,
bit of a
well, that's an
contradiction there.
oxymoron, mandatory volunteering, but I think it's worked, because I see with my children, and they're young adults now, and they and their peers are very philanthropically minded.
They could have learned that from you, Sandra.
No, but it's no, not at all. I think it's across the board. I think it's they're very
just what you do.
socially they're very socially aware, and I have huge comfort in knowing that this country will be well cared for by the next generation, and I'm very optimistic.
This generation is one of the most collaborative too. They've been in everything from play groups to work teams, and they have they collaborate with people around the world on a daily basis, and surely that should give us some hope.
I agree.
Yeah.
I totally think that's.
So if you could give one piece of advice to people from your years of experience in this philanthropic world, and you know, just the lessons you've learned, the joy you've gotten out of it, what would that advice be, do you think?
Go ahead.
I guess just follow your passion, and you know, if you are interested in the environment, get involved in an organization that has that focus. And I think for a lot of younger people, they won't necessarily have the financial resources right now to be able to give monetarily, but giving of their time is as equally important, I think. And so really, if just stick with something that you're passionate about and
Yeah.
and help your community, and you'll get so much more from that giving.
I was talking to a young woman the other day who's at that stage of life with job, kids, commute, and she said, I don't have an ounce of energy or time or money left at the end of the day, Sheree, to be philanthropic. And I said, so are you teaching your kids about things? And she said, oh yeah, we're very concerned about the environment. We teach them this, this, and this. And I said, you know, maybe that's what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
such a valuable gift
Yeah.
to be raising that next generation. And so just as you say, you know, find your passion and think about what you have at this particular point in your life. And it may be different in 10 years, but do what you can now.
Well, thinking of people who have not been involved in volunteer activities, because as Sandra, was saying, encourage them to get involved in volunteer activities, hopefully something that they feel strongly about or even have a passion about, and a whole world will open to them that goes, far beyond their love of their family or their love of their job, and they'll be making new friends and acquaintances. Their involvement will, as I said before, simply feel good about it.
Yeah.
It's whether we're talking in terms of their time, or their money.
Yeah.
And it will, carry on and become a very important part of their life.
Yeah. What's your hope for your own philanthropy as you go forward?
Oh, that's a good question. I hope that I can give more financially now that I'm getting old and my children are almost finished school. Almost.
Careful how you say that. You never know.
It's amazing how when you get them to a certain point, it's like, wow, I've got a lot more resources than I ever thought I had.
Well, for me, it's a matter of carrying on to the end of my life. I'm still involved.
Yeah.
I'm a part of a program at St. Joseph's Hospital, a very successful one. This is in the area of mental health, which is, I've been involved, as you know, with mental health. I have a son who has schizophrenia and is doing very well indeed. So this organization that has been set up just a couple of years ago to help families who have relatives with with mental illness, and it's just doing absolutely great. And I can't get over the number of volunteers that we've been able to recruit.
Okay.
For this program.
You're always very quiet about these things, Hugh, but you were instrumental in making that happen, as I understand it, right?
I certainly had a part in it,
Yeah.
So anyway, I carry on. I mean, I'm 85 years of age, but as long as I'm feeling okay.
But there's your passion, right?
Yeah.
That's your passion, and
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
So any final things that you want to say about philanthropy month, and no more about why you didn't want to bring your fund to your foundation to the community foundation. We're not talking about that.
No.
I think my message to everybody would be just do what you can do. You'll feel great about it. And you'll get way more out of what you do and give than you have given.
Yeah. And we've certainly seen that in Women for Change, I think, haven't we? We've seen that people have had some joy in learning and seeing that they can really make a difference, and thinking about the potential of making a difference in the future, and doing it together. And I think we'll see more of those opportunities when you talk about new models, social enterprises and things like that. Some of the giving circles, some of the people coming together to address together some of the things that that they really care about. We'll see more and more of that, which is exciting. Any final words for us, Hugh, from your experience?
You know, only that, I mean, again, I'm plugging the Hamilton Community Foundation, which has been, well, it goes without saying, it's one of the outstanding community foundations, not only in Canada, but, you know, but in the world. And it's I think there should be more publicity about the foundation, because I think few people know what contribution you know it's making.
Thank you.
Yeah, not only in you know, evaluating you know, grants that come in, but being you know, a leader in the community. It's
the Abacus program and the initiatives around.
Well, thank you, and it's certainly our hope to continue to find ways to be relevant and to be a resource to people. I want to thank you both very much. It's always a pleasure to talk to both of you, and it's been a real privilege having you here today. I always leave inspired, and I really, really thank you. So we have to sign off now. That's all we have time for today. And again, I thank you so much to Sandra Stephenson and Hugh Clarke, our guests here today, as we talk about philanthropy during National Philanthropy Month. So on behalf of Hamilton Community Foundation, we look forward to seeing you again next month when our regular host, Terry Cook, returns. And we encourage you, if you'd like to watch these shows, to go to Cable 14. You can also read more about us at hamiltoncommunityfoundation.ca. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.